just believe in the power of healing and restoration. And I know that if we can just come together and speak about the hard things, we can finally begin to heal. So, this is where we heal.
Welcome to another episode of This Is Where We Heal podcast. Today I have the extraordinary Monica Adams with me. I am so excited for this episode. I know that you guys are going to be incredibly inspired by this woman and the many, many, many things that she has accomplished in this already just short life that she has lived. And I had the whole list laid out here. But the thing is that as accomplished as she is, Monica is not a bragger. So we're not going to do all of that. But I am going to let you at least kind of do an overview of what you do so that the guests understand who you are if they don't already recognize you as a St. Louis local.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
And yes, it's almost uncomfortable sometimes, Ashley, that I'll be like, nah, we don't have to say all of that. I am very proud. Don't get me wrong. I am proud of the accomplishments. So yes, I have been blessed to have worked in TV and radio for 30 years and worked locally for St. Louis to the Fox affiliate, for our NBC affiliate. I worked for the legendary KMOX, which is make me so proud because it's an incredible radio station that was heard all over the United States and the home of the Cardinals, and some of the greatest legends have walked those hallways. And so I do not at all take that for granted. I was a morning show host for WIL radio, so country music for a long time, and got my start working at a small market station in Festus, Missouri that was on the lines of a KMOX, but in a small market. But that is what I always go back to remember, which was work hard and learn what every single person's doing so that we know the end product came from every single person that walked into this building. And so I was raised well, right? Mom always taught me to never be too big for my britches. So that's where it all comes from. I have zero ego. I have confidence. Don't get me wrong. Everybody says everybody has an ego. It depends on what you think of ego. Yes, we do, but I'm not egotistical. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm a very real person. That's why when I decided to walk away from TV, I started my talk show, The Real Monica Adams. And it was funny, Ashley, for so many reasons. People were like, why don't you just do MonicaAdams.com? And I said, well, there's a photographer that actually has that. And I knew that from like years ago in case I ever wanted to do something. And then they were like, how about The Monica Adams? And I said, that sounds elitist. And my friends were like, no, it doesn't. I said, see, to me, it does. And they're like, how about Monica Adams News? And I said, no, I'm trying to break away from news. How about Monica Adams Life? I'm like, it sounds like I'm dead. So came back and they're like, just do The Monica Adams. Let's just be done with it. You know, they put it into the search. And sure enough, The Monica Adams was taken. And I looked at them and I go, what? I'm the real Monica Adams. And we laughed so hard and we're like, oh, that makes sense. That's it. Let's do it. And so we went and got the domain name. And I was like, there's so many things that play off of that, including that I have always hoped that everybody that ever met me said, she's so real. And that comes from my upbringing. But it also, moving forward, is that I want more people to be authentic. 100%. And the more authentic we are, the better our world is, the better our relationships are. So yes, I have, just to sum it all, I have been blessed to have an incredible career up to the point that I decided to really follow the entrepreneurial spirit. And it has been the most rewarding thing that I have truly ever done, to take all those years, and I'll never forget anybody that ever gave me an opportunity, but to take all of what I knew was the best of and leave the negativity behind and wake people up every single morning at 7 a.m. Central Time to the antithesis of the news.
Wow. Positivity,
hope, motivation, inspiration, light. And so we do that. We mix in fun. We cry together, laugh together, inspire, educate. It is so fulfilling, Ashley. It really is.
Oh, I mean, that is honestly the whole point, right? Yeah. Like, I love that you have put your focus on positivity and inspiring people, especially with your background in news, because the news, I mean, we get so lost in the negativity and all of the things that are going wrong in the world. Yeah. And I genuinely feel like what you focus on is what grows in your life. And I know for me, I have to avoid the news sometimes
Yep.
because I do get like, it takes me down. It like brings
Right.
me down. But that's also part of like the platform that I have. And part of why I wanted you on my show today was that we do have to talk about hard things sometimes.
Sure.
We talk about, sexual assault, and we talk about, or I talk about domestic violence, and I talk about the hard parts of healing coming out of horrific and toxic things. And that can be work, that can be relationships, that can be even family dynamics. It can be so many things, and it's really hard. But the whole point is to heal and get to a place where you no longer have to live in that.
Isn't it a great place to be, though? And obviously, this is where your whole platform came from that video to say what you had been through. And then all of a sudden, you realize you're not alone. And you have this world of women and men alike that come back and say, I've been there. Thank you for finding your voice, which is really, it's getting to that point. And we know that not everybody's ready, but when you are able to get to that, it's such a beautiful place to be because that's where you start to heal. And when, in my life coaching, and I've talked a lot about this, that when people come to me, I do more timeline therapy because what we do is we have to dig back because we have to figure out how to move forward. And so many times I can meet somebody and they could be 30, 35 years old, 40 years old, doesn't matter what age you are, but I'm meeting them at the point of where the abuse happened or the toxicity or whatever stunted their growth. It is, you're still 6 years old.
Wow.
You're still 12 years old, but we're going to get you to your biological age at some point. I know, it's got to chill. It is, we've got to go there, but let's not stay there because that's where the pain is. Let's find a way to move on. It is not by the snap of a finger.
That's right.
We got to talk about it. And when you trust someone that cares enough about you, then you start healing.
Amen. Gosh, that's so good. Oh my gosh. So with that said, one of the things that I've realized just in my own journey is that it is extraordinarily hard to have the confidence to put yourself out in the world as a woman, just in general, but especially when you've been through difficult things. And so that's why part of why I was so emotional looking at all of the accomplishments you had, because it's not even that you got all these awards. It's not, it's not about the lights and the action, but it's the fact that I know personally as a woman how difficult it is and how much courage it takes to keep stepping forward and putting yourself out in the world. And knowing that there are a million ways that something could unfold, but the fact that you have the courage to just continually choose yourself and choose the path that you wanted to be on. And like, I want to talk about that because so many women are afraid to be seen. They're afraid to be known. And in order to put yourself out there, you have to take that risk.
Isn't it crazy though? So I would ask that question of why? Why do you constantly think someone's judging you? Or really it's finally getting you to a point of why do you care?
Yeah.
Because the people who are truly your friends are there to scream your name loudly. Go, Ashley, go, right? I always liken it to whatever the sport may be. But I use people that run a 5K or a 10K or a marathon, and you're doing it. So I did a half marathon with my mother in honor of my father that I lost from cancer at a very young age. So your name's on the back of the shirt. These people that are lining the streets, they're there for another person, but they're there shouting your name, a complete stranger. They have nothing to gain from that except for what? To lift you up. Go, Monica. Go, Jackie. What does it make you do? I can do hard things, right? So let's keep going. That's how our relationship should be, though. And if that doesn't stand next to you, well, that shouldn't be a person should ever stand next to you, right? That's people that are judging you, and they're really jealous. It's where it all comes from. Women that don't lift up women are jealous. And by the way, it's okay. They're not ready to blossom. They're stuck in their own ways. And it's okay, by the way, if you have friendships that unfortunately is how people look at it, or I say fortunately, they are no longer because it served its purpose at the time. And if this person no longer lifts you up, then go ahead and let them go. If they ever come back, well, hopefully they've healed and you can figure a way to heal, but don't stay in the toxicity. There's nothing for us to gain from that. There's no growth ever happening. You're just stuck in it. And trust me, I know so many people that have gone through it, and I know it's hard. I've been there. I literally had people that stood in our wedding next to us that are no longer friends of mine. I'll never understand why. And it hurt deeply at the time. However, I now look at it as if that didn't happen, these wonderful friendships that came walking in that I have met within the last probably 5 years, I wouldn't have had time for because I am such a busy person that I wouldn't have even had a path open. And so there's where I thank God of, oh, you took that one out so I could have this one.
Amen.
However, I am the type of person of if that person ever wanted to come back and say, this is why, by the way, Well, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Let's be adults about this. Let's discuss what it was before you ghost someone.
Yeah.
That's
Oh my
just
gosh, so true.
the cop out.
I mean, that's a hard lesson for a lot, just people in general to learn.
Yep.
Is that it's okay to separate yourself and create space between people that can't support you,
Right.
and can't uplift you. And that's really hard when you're a people pleaser and you're an empathetic person and
Yep.
you're like, well, I mean, you make excuses for the way that they treat you in a million different ways, and you want to believe that, like, deep down inside of them, they do want these things for you. But it's like, no, like you are allowed to keep moving yourself forward
Sure.
and not feel guilty about that. Right?
Well, and it's also, if you are an empath, fantastic. If you are a people pleaser, it just means you have a kind soul.
Yeah.
However, people will walk on you.
Yes.
You have to find a balance in that. I watched my mother, who was, and I say was because I really am so excited by her growth, because it can happen at any point in time of whatever age you are. But she was a people pleaser. So guess what? I became one. And then I watched people take advantage of me and walk on me. And then I became, well, wait a minute. I always want to be kind to you, and you show me kindness, and I'm going to show you kindness back,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to let you walk on me.
Yeah.
So whatever we want to label that to be, I don't label it as a people pleaser. It's kindness
Yeah, I
that I
agree.
will pay forward. But I, started telling my mom, well, let's not people please so much,
Yeah.
because watch what people do to you.
Yes.
Right?
it's
Let's
so
instead
true.
find more kind people, and those toxic and drama-filled people. They really, I don't know what community they want to be in, but I hope that we can just start getting rid of them in this
But I
world.
don't want it to be mine.
No, please, unless you need
Exactly.
me to life coach you.
Right. Which happily, please. Well, I want to go back to that because I
Please.
love how you talked about how your mother was a people pleaser. And so in turn, you became one too. And so I want to know, like, growing up, what did that look like for you? And how did you shift from that mindset to becoming the woman who's just conquering every goal and dream that she has for herself?
Well, great question. I looked at it as but it would make sense to what I did with leaving my career. If more people could take the pieces that make sense, that serve you. I always ask my clients, how does that serve you? This 50 pounds you put on, or that toxic relationship, how does it serve you? The abuse that you're staying in, how does that serve you? Why? Let's get you out of it, because you have value. You are important. You are beautiful. You are kind. You're intelligent. All these things that you think that you're not. Well, those people that are telling you, they want you to be suffering, right? Don't stay silent. Instead, ask the questions. Why don't you believe in me? Why don't you think I can be this? Why don't you think I deserve this promotion, or deserve this relationship that I'm in? Ask those questions. And sometimes they can be hard. Be willing to have the answer that comes back. The people who love you enough will say, well, let me guide you with this, right? Let's shift. I love that we all use the word shift, because people have an aversion to the word change. So we all
Right.
started using the word shift. Shift your pattern, right? And then let's see what happens with it. I watched the things that I thought were really great, that the way people treated my mother or my father or my brothers or myself. And I've always been an observer of life, but I also am an old soul. So when I was a young girl, I was already in my 20s, even though I was probably 7.
Right.
Right. I remember my mom, I was probably 3 or 5 years old. And my mom, we used to have me on this little blanket watching my brothers play football. And no, I'm sorry, I was 7. But I looked younger. And so the way I was acting, I guess somebody said, why is she acting like whatever? My mom's like, I don't remember what the age. My mom's like, well, she's only 5, but I was tall.
Yeah.
And so they were like, oh. And so I'm an old soul, but I also was taller. So it was all this confusing aspect of life. But it's interesting for me to look at the way I observe life. My friends used to always, music-wise, I would listen to R&B and Motown music, because my mom and dad were champion swing and jitterbug dancers.
Oh.
So I grew up with that music. But to my friends, they were like, what the heck is this music,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, never mind, you're not going to understand it. When we would go to celebration parties from different sports I played, or dance or whatever, I would always seem to go to the parents. I wanted to hear like their worldly stories. And my friends were over here like, why are you talking to my parents? I'm like, I don't know, they're more interesting than you.
I can relate to
Right?
that.
Yes.
Yeah, I can
And so
relate
you
to
keep finding where the energy is that you're looking for. So I think I was, from a very early age, very much seeking guidance, education, kindness, whatever it was, and continuing to take that. And so I started to learn, and trust me, it's not an easy thing. As I mentioned, it's not just going to happen. It's every day that I put this choice forward and say, this is who I want to be. This is the legacy that I want to leave. This is the guidance I want to pay it forward, so that ideally, when I'm no longer here, I want it to be, all she really wanted was for our world to be kinder.
Yeah.
And what part can I play in that? Because people say, well, can one person really make a difference? Well, you tell me.
Yeah.
All the people we talk about in history, they made a choice and then we all followed. So me stepping away was, let's do this. Don't get me wrong. It's hard work. I get up very early, but I'm blessed at the end of the night to go, I can't wait to inspire tomorrow morning again and again. Or if somebody calls me and wants me to train them or ask me to life coach them or bless me to MC or auction, anything that I do, I consider everything to be a blessing.
Wow.
I don't take that for granted. Ever. And I never will. I don't care. I get to be my mother's age. Before I leave this earth, it will always be, you could have chosen anybody else.
Yeah.
That's why I say, while there's hard things that happened in the career I came from, I still have to thank them because they gave me an opportunity.
That's so true.
But it's what we do with the opportunity.
That's right. It's the shift of perspective of, did this happen to me or for me?
Correct.
Yes. And what can I do with it now?
Right.
And who can I help behind me that's going to go through the same thing?
Which is what we should all do.
Yeah.
It's not just run with it and let me climb to the top of the ladder and kick you all that are trying to climb the ladder. It is, come with me. Let me help you.
Yeah.
Up to the next rung.
Yeah. I'm one step ahead or 20, that's the whole goal, right?
Right.
Were there any specific things in your life that happened that were really like wake up calls for you that made you shift from the people pleaser in you to, no, you know what? I don't have to be that person anymore. And I'm not going to be that woman anymore. I'm going to start choosing myself.
I learned, it was a couple things. One has to do with the medical aspect of what happened in my life when I was 19, which people who are here locally have probably heard me say it before. If not, it literally is the reason I am the woman that I am and the person that I am. So I haven't checked in a long time, so you can site check this. It was the largest blood clot in medical history when I was 19 years old.
What?
I was never going into broadcasting. I was studying sports medicine and physical therapy at University of Missouri Columbia, or we call it Mizzou.
Yeah.
Right. So I was there, and then I had a massive blood clot that brought me back home. I was in intensive care. My parents were told that I was going to die. So you go into a room, you think about this as a parent, went into the room. I could see it like through this much of the curtain of my intensive care room. And I was thinking, why are my parents going in that room?
Yeah.
And then when my mom came in, you could see that she was crying or had been, her eyes. And I asked her, I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, oh, honey, I'm fine. I'm like, why were you crying? And she's like, I'm not crying. And I was like, you pay attention. I can, you be present. You can tell what is happening to people. And she's like, no, I'm just worried about you because you're going through a lot. She was told, as they were all told, don't tell her what she's going through, right? We got to keep her spirits. Just think about mental health in this world, right? You got to keep someone's spirits high.
Yeah.
So I wasn't told, by the way, for 2 years, the magnitude of what had happened that day. Until Mom said, I'm going to sit you down because I need you to understand because you're acting like it was no big deal. But it's who I am. Like I brush things off of, let's do this.
Yeah.
I have a pretty high pain tolerance. So when I would play sports or dance or whatever it was, let's go, let's go, let's go. Probably played through some injuries I shouldn't have, but it's the work ethic in me. Like, let's do this. Let's do it to our high ability. But yes, I was my third day in the hospital. My parents were taken to a room and said, we need you to prepare. She's not going to make it.
Oh,
so think about this as a life lesson. What do you do with that? My spunky little mother said, not my daughter, not today. You have anything else to say, Doc? My dad looked at it as, oh my gosh, like the doctor's saying this, you got to listen, right? The white coat syndrome that we have. Now, don't get me wrong here. I have mad respect for the medical field.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, they're not God.
Yeah, that's right.
They're doing their field as great as they can. But to deliver those words, do you understand the power of just letting go and believing that? And what would have happened if she had come in the room and thought, well, my daughter's going to die today. I'm just going to like smother her and be over. But is it going to happen? Instead, the doctor's like, my dad said, well, hey, wait, we got to listen. And she's like, not my daughter, not today. Do you have anything else to say? If not, I'm going to walk out of the room. He stayed in the room. He took and absorbed, I'm going to lose my daughter. She left the room. She came to her daughter. She laid a St. Jude card on my chest. And I said, what's that? And she said, it's the patron saint of impossible causes. And of course, my mom's like, you always make people laugh, even in your hardest moment. I was like, I'm impossible? She's like, no, honey, I just need all the help that we can get. And I'm like, it's not that bad. And I just kept saying, it's not that bad, not knowing it really was. Right. So I had a blood clot, if anybody wants to know, on a vessel that leads off your heart all the way down to my feet. One massive blood clot.
Oh, my gosh.
So it changed the course of my life or changed the course of history in my life.
Yeah.
That's my story. That's my past. That is where the awakening happened.
Yes.
That is where every aspect of anything that happened after that in my life all goes back to timeline therapy, right?
Yeah.
I can go back to 19 and go, that's when I woke up. That's when no longer do I really ever think that I stayed in pain. It happened. Sure. Friendships came, friendships went, boyfriends that wanted to date me because of what I did for a living, who I could introduce them to, all those things.
Yeah.
But you see it faster, you see it clearer, and it's getting you to that point. So I always go back, and there's a book that I'm writing right now. It has to do with the awakening, that moment, and trying to get people to understand, do we want horrific things to happen to someone? No, but that's when you wake up.
Oh, that's so true.
Or you hope that that's
I
when
mean,
someone wakes up.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true, though. I love that. I feel like the hardest things that ever happened to me were honestly the greatest things that ever happened to me. I couldn't always say that.
No.
But I can now.
Yep.
Because when you come out of the fog of the pain and the grief of it, which is necessary, you shift. You have the choice to shift your perspective,
Right.
you know?
You just said an uncomfortable, or going through hard times. So people will ask, what do you want when you're no longer here? What do you want people to say when they come to your celebration of life? Because you will not be coming to a funeral. You'll be coming to a celebration of life. I want you to have incredible wine, and I want you to dance, because that's things that I will make sure you have good wine. I will leave it behind. So celebrate my life and say that I changed you in what way?
Yeah.
And then you'll hear everyone in that room say, she always said this, that the greatest rewards in life come from the most uncomfortable walk.
That's so true.
So think about that. Whatever you're in, don't stay in the pain. I know that you're going to have a roller coaster of emotions that happen in life. And when we're on the top of our game, just understand that at any given moment you can be knocked down. But who have you surrounded yourself with that will help lift you back up?
That's so
If you've
good.
been egotistical, you're going to get knocked down. You're going to be all alone.
Yep.
Right? So
Humbling.
people will remember the way you made them feel. They'll remember the times that you spent with them. I have to be called on this a lot, Ashley. My friends and my family, I give them the right to say, slow down. It's hard when you are a workhorse and you're type A and you know what you want. And when you are your own boss, it's hard to stop. But if you start to trust and surround yourself with the right people, then you start to delegate and you don't micromanage. Unfortunately, I've never micromanaged, but I think some people that have probably been on my team said, I can do more of this. Trust me.
Yeah.
Okay. And then suddenly you find that balance back. Spend more time with my husband, my dogs, my
Yeah.
family, my friends. It has to happen.
That's so
Otherwise, you end up leaving this earth and it is, boy, she worked her butt off, but all she did was work.
Yes.
And so I call myself on that a lot.
I'm the complete opposite of that. Like I am like dive in, give it a little more. Where I'm just like terrified of everything. I'm like, oh, like I have so many dreams, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know. You know, I'm the
So all you have to do is, see, now I'm life coaching Ashley. All you have to do is write them down. There's a science behind taking it out of your brain and putting it on paper. And so your thought processes are here.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden you look down and go, oh, and then go back and read it the next day. Keep flipping back because this is your story playing out. You don't have to overwhelm yourself with every single dream because it seems insurmountable that you can ever really attack any of those and do them well. But can you do multiple things? Some people can, some people can't.
Yeah.
If it takes your focus away, then no, then there's too much going on.
Yeah.
So put your dreams down there, like manifestation and visualization. I used to do a life coaching class every Thursday night with the community all over the place. And it was cultivating a dream, cultivating a vision. Let's do vision boards. What does that look like? Let's put it out there. Don't, have your dreams.
Yeah.
And don't let anybody squash them, by the way.
Yeah.
Right?
That's so true.
Because people will try to
That's so true.
for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
They're jealous.
Yeah. Be
Usually is what
specific on
happens.
who you tell your dreams to, for sure.
Yes. And sometimes it's unfortunate that we have to keep them guarded until we trust. But if you have been hurt, you understand, well, I've been hurt, so I don't want to say anything to anybody. But you'll know your tribe.
Yeah.
And it becomes
100%.
smaller and smaller, and that's a good thing.
I want every woman to hear this because this is so one of the hardest things for me in my life because I'm a lover. I love people. I love women. I love uplifting women. I love supporting women. That's always been who I am.
Right.
But of course you go through life and not everyone else is that way. And that's really hard sometimes. And you're going, why can't this person, support me? Why is this person acting like so spiteful or jealous or whatever? But it was like 2.5 years ago, I started realizing like there were certain people that I just had to create space from, and that was okay. And it didn't make me a bad person.
Nope.
And I felt guilty for so long,
Sure.
and
It's human nature.
and I just said to the Lord, I said, Lord, just bring me my tribe, bring me my people.
Mhm.
Like I just want people in my life that can support me the way that I know I'm going to support them.
Right.
And I have to tell you, I don't have a ton of people that I'm super close to anymore. I've gotten very guarded about that. But every single woman that I have met in the last 2 years has been divinely sent from God, without a doubt.
Because you're focused on it and it's a real thing. Your energy is going to take you in one direction or the other. It's going to take you towards all the things that you're focusing on, which is, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. But whether you believe in God or the universe, they get mixed messages and they hear, oh, you want more of this? No, that's not what I said. I don't want
That's
this.
so
I want
true.
less and less of it. Okay, then you've got to start taking the actions to take you to that. So if you start saying, I just want authentic people. I want people that will lift me up the way I lift them up. I want a good human being. I want to date this person. I'd love to get married. I want to have this life. And again, it's not this grandiose, I want money. That people aren't going to remember that. They're going to remember that you're a good person, and good people will eventually attract to them good people. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, well, I don't have 10, 15, 20 friends anymore.
Yeah.
No, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Thank them for the time that they had, because you know the whole thing of a season and reason and a lifetime.
Yeah.
So I hope I have more lifers that are currently in my life right now. If I don't, it's okay.
Yeah.
But you got to learn to get to this point. And if I can teach the younger generation to get there sooner, I have done my role. I will be so very happy than waiting until you're 30, 40, 50, however old someone gets to be. But truly all that matters is that you get it before you leave this earth. I don't care if it's your last day on earth, to understand what a great way to go.
Yeah. I heard somewhere that your support system is even more important than being in therapy. Like regardless of what season in life you're in, like the people that you surround yourself with has a greater impact on you than anything else.
Yeah. Well, think about the word trust and respect are two huge things. So if you can let go, and that's a really scary thing, people are so guarded in trusting. When you bear it all and that person stands by you day after day after day, it's a beautiful place to be. That type of a relationship, that sisterhood, that brotherhood, that couplehood, it's such a beautiful thing. And when you find that tribe, oh, you're blessed.
Yeah.
Because some people never get it.
That's so true. So you're married.
I
How
am.
long have you been married?
It'll be 10 years, October 3rd.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh, I love it. Okay.
So we dated in 2001. He will tell you the story and he'll say that I kicked him to the curb. I did not. I did not. Let me set the record straight. I did not. But we looked at that. And here's another thing about life lessons. We lost 11 years and found our way back to each other.
Wow.
Which was a really, really beautiful thing. And he had been married. When he was going through a divorce, my friend said, do you remember you saying that if the two of you are on this earth and you're not involved with anybody, that you would never let that pass again? And I had been dating someone. He obviously was he had been separated, then he was going through a divorce. I didn't see the picture because I was raised well. And a lot of people are like, well, when the two of you talked, didn't you have feelings? And I said, no, to me, he was a married man.
Yeah.
And I don't date married men.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to judge you if this is your thing, but
Right,
it will
right.
never end well. Can I
Right.
just look at this camera? It'll never end well.
Right.
It is toxic. He belongs to someone else or she does. Let them get out of that
Yes.
or go through therapy and find their way. It's not a good thing. All right? I'm just going to, for the record,
Just
it's not a
save
good
yourself
thing.
some.
Yes. But for me, even that he was going and separated, it was me actually trying to help him to find his way back. For me, I was dating someone and then we broke up. And then when she decided to divorce him, yes, it was very raw and very new. I was like, oh, it's too new though. So we were friends and we went to the Fox Theater together as friends. And he came back from the bathroom and put his arms around me. He's like, I can't believe that we're here. And I was like, I know, but as friends, right? And watched the show and everyone's like, and like, did he kiss you? And I'm like, no, we went as friends. And they're like, oh. And I was like, I don't know what you're looking for there, but we went as friends. Next day he called and his mother was ill, unfortunately, and went to go visit her. And then said, I'd love to come over and let's like revisit old times. So we're looking through old pictures and he met my dog, and I'm always big on watch how animals act. Oh, my dog just like jumped and gave him this big hug. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And he asked me to dance. Now, Ashley, he didn't dance with me 11 years prior. In fact, he left me on the dance floor. He asked me to dance and I turn around. I'm like, well, where'd he go? And my friend points to the stairs and I was like, okay. So we danced on the dance floor. I go back up and I'm like, what happened? And he goes, you all dance and you dance really good. And I got scared.
Oh.
I'm like, then don't ask me to dance. And he's like, I didn't expect to get scared, but this is what happened. So here we are 11 years later, and he asked me to dance in my front room. And I laugh, and I'm like, very funny. And he goes, huh? And I said, oh, does Jim 2.0 dance? And he goes, what are you talking about? I go, you left me on the dance floor 11 years ago. He had forgotten that, right? He's like, oh, now I remember. He goes, no, let's dance. So Motown, I told you I love that. Motown music's playing in my front room. We go in there and we start to dance, and I put my hand on his chest, and I'm like, I can't do this. All he heard was, oh God, again, she can't date me, or again, she's going to break up, or whatever it may be. And I was like, oh, no, I heard how that sounded. I said, no, I can't continue to dance with you without saying something I should have always said. I loved you then, I love you now, and I will always love you. And a tear rolled down his face. And he goes, what? And he's like, why didn't you say that? I'm like, I don't know, but it wasn't our time. And so if you're patient enough, God will deliver your person back to you. And he believes that we had to affect each other's lives and in other people's lives in a different way. It was hard. Don't get me wrong, because when he came back to me, he couldn't have children, and that crushed me. So Mother's Day is never fun for me. Half of it, I should say. I have an incredible mother that I dote on and gush on. My drive back home is never a fun one. So it's hard. Remember that on Mother's Day. That remember those who would have loved to have had children.
Yeah, so
but I always go, God, I guess you just had a greater purpose, right? And so all the things that you have on your sheet that I do, I wouldn't be able to do if I had kids, because there's no way. The greatest job in life is a mother or a father. It's being present in your child's life and understand the way you can lead them and guide them. So maybe today we can change you by the way you look at your kids. And if you think that they're a burden to you, shift, change, make it a choice to get back into their life and try to be a role model to them, because it is a great blessing that a lot of us would have loved to have had.
Yeah.
But we couldn't, right? And so we are very, very blessed. He's a police officer, so I'm a proud police wife, and lift him up every single day for what he does. And I'm excited to be celebrating our 10th anniversary. We've been back together, I guess, 12 years.
So are there specific things that you saw in him that you just knew? Like, what were those things? Like, and if you're talking to women, let's say they've come out of just a series of bad relationships or bad dating situations, and they're going, I just don't know if this exists. Like, what should they be looking for? Like, or what standards should they be holding for themselves?
Well, that's funny that you say standards. One of my best friends, when she met him, and she had seen all the other guys I dated, and of course, Jim always goes, oh, yes. And she dated a lot of guys. I'm like, that's okay, though, because I knew I'm not going to stay in this.
Yes.
And so when she met Jim, she literally went up and shook his hand, and she goes, so you're the bar. And he goes, what? And she goes, you're the bar that was set so high for anybody else. Because I always, not that I ever knew he was going to come back. Why would I? He was married. But it was never ever forget that you deserve whatever it is you believe you deserve. Don't let anybody else say that you're not going to get it. I knew that I was treated well by him. He is a true Southern gentleman, even though he lives here in St. Louis, was born here. His greatest ties in his heart are to his aunt and uncle that live in Birmingham, Alabama. So he loves the South. So that true Southern charm mentality he had. Let them open the doors for you. Let them, if they want to give you flowers, don't do the independent thing of, I can get my own door. It's, okay, really? Yeah. Let them do that, right? It's funny because Mel Robbins has become known for the whole let them, right? But I started a hashtag, or my team did 2.5 years ago, let them watch. Hashtag let them watch. What does that mean? It is let them watch you become who you are supposed to become. Let them watch you be in great relationships. Let them watch you heal. It's all those things. And now she does the let them. But I want to have Mel Robbins on my show because I'm going to say, I started it.
Right.
Now
you took that from me.
No, but in all seriousness, I'm just glad that it's out there of you do deserve this. So for me, it was someone who had confidence, not an ego, not cocky. He's a very good looking guy. He's well built, but he has that aw shucks mentality. He's humble. He's kind. He's driven. He is a family man. He came from a great family. He's a good friend. He is a man's man, but he also is charming where the ladies love him. I mean, I'm very, very, very blessed. But I think I put that out there like, this is what I was looking for, and this is what I deserve.
Yes.
So that's a big, big thing to say is you do deserve that.
Yes.
And for him, he wanted a woman that was confident. He wanted a woman that was kind. And he had been through some rough relationships and people that didn't treat him well.
Right.
And I was like, I will never. But that's hard, though. And you understand that when you come come from being hurt and being hurt and being hurt, it's hard to ever trust again.
Yes, it is.
So trust me that when I got into that relationship, I was like, oh, so you think I'm going to cheat on you. You
Yeah.
think that I'm going to hurt you. You think that I'm going to want you to become something that you're not. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
That will never happen. I abhor cheating. I don't understand. I'd never, just like I said before looking at the camera, I don't get it. It's not going to end well. Let them get out of that relationship.
Yep.
Or go through therapy. Let it end.
Yeah.
Before you completely disrupt
Yeah.
several people's lives. Not
Yeah.
just that couple, but what happens afterwards. Because he had to heal, but I was the woman that was going to allow him to heal.
That's right.
And I would stand by that man no matter what. That's not what others in his life did. And for whatever reason, like, you know, he has children with other women, and that's fine. And I'm glad that there's a sense of an adulthood, right? And unfortunately, and that doesn't happen, unfortunately, with a lot of people, that you have to go back into that, and it's got to revisit the pain. And oh, we have a kid with this, you know, person now. We didn't have that. That's a good thing. We didn't have our own children, but I have blessings of two stepsons.
I always say there are some things that you won't be able to heal until you finally end up in a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Like some things you heal on your own first.
Right.
But then there are parts that until you're actually in a safe, healthy, consistent relationship, you won't be able to heal those things.
Right. Well, and it takes a lot of patience, right? I mean, if I didn't love him from before and now and forever, it would be, never mind. I don't need to deal with this. I've told you I'm not going to do this. I've told you I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
What he has said is best for us is I don't take his crap.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So he'll do whatever he does, and I just go, okay, I'm going to walk away. And then he'll come back and he'll come over and he'll kiss me and go, I'm sorry. Right. You had to go through that.
Yeah.
And I'll be here when you have decided to calm down or throw your little rant, but I'm not going to give it power.
Right.
That's the greatest thing I can teach is don't give it power and don't try to shout over each other because it's never going to get better.
Yep.
Right? You have to be right and you have to be right. Okay, that's not going to end well. Instead, it is, do you need to talk to me as a human being? I will listen, but if not, go have your rant.
Yep.
And I'm going to give you space because a lot of people just need space.
Yep.
Then if you love each other and you respect each other and you want the best for each other, you'll come back together as two human beings that will help each other heal from it.
That's so
And so
good.
once he understood that, oh boy, our relationship took a whole nother level of, so she can go out with friends or she can have male friends and she's not going to be interested in them. Nope. I got a husband.
Yeah.
And that's a friend. And so when you can trust with that, that's a great thing. But if someone has shown that they can't be trusted, okay, then you probably need to address that.
100%.
Yeah.
I think the signs are always there too. And I also think, and of course, I'm not 100% certain that I've reached this place in my life, but I think that when God brings the right person in your life, there's a part of you that just does know. Like
Follow
it
your gut.
feels different.
Mhm.
It
It
feels different. There's a safety that you can feel there, a peace that you feel there that you're not going to feel in any other relationship. And I think you always know that too in your other relationships that something's not quite right. Even if they're nice, even if they are a gentleman, there's a part of you that's going, I don't know.
You and I had that, and without naming names, there were two guys that I had dated prior to Jim and I getting back together. Very, very similar in nature to the way I was treated by Jim, but something was missing.
Yeah.
Right? You want to have it all. So why do we try to talk ourselves into staying? Because you're either doing yourself a disservice or them.
Yes.
Maybe you're keeping them from meeting the person they could just to stay in the relationship. And so I did that. And I look at it going, okay, I was trying to make the feelings be what I had for Jim. Because there was so many similarities to the way he treated me, but this part was missing. So yes, we have to, I always say, trust the gut or trust the feelings. Do you get chills or do you get this weird burning sensation of something's wrong here?
Yeah.
Well, listen to it. That is, to me, whatever you believe in. That's either God or it's an angel. It's somebody that's no longer with us. Somebody's trying to get you a message.
That's right.
And so when things happen in life that we feel we wish wouldn't happen, it's because you missed the whisper that became a slap in the face and you're looking for the gut punch.
Yeah, that's so true. Why do we have to wait for the gut punch? But we do. We do it. We sure do. So many. And I know women can, actually, I'm sure men and women can relate to that. I mean, if we're honest, it's not just, there's not just bad men. There are women that are unhealed as well.
Correct. Absolutely.
So, yeah. What was it that pushed you the most? Because you were in a very male-dominated world in your industry, right? What pushed you to keep going as a woman that said, you know what, I'm just as capable, I'm just as driven, I'm just as, talented and skilled, I'm going to keep going?
I don't listen to the chatter that's around. So if there were men that thought that a woman didn't belong, whether it was when I covered sports or it was a male-dominated industry for a long, long time in the news business. So was it, you don't belong behind the desk, but you can be a reporter, or we're going to put you in this position, we're going to keep you in this position. Many people allow that power to happen, and they believe what that person believes for them. And it happens so much, unfortunately, until you say, I deserve to be over here. I'm a hard worker. I'm a kind person. I will do for anyone. I'm going to make the product be the best because I want to know what you're doing over here and you're doing over here. For me, it was, if someone didn't believe in me, I'm going to find my way out, which, by the way, is what happened for me. And I say this because I would love for people to not stay in it as long. Yeah. Again, I have to believe it was for the right reason, but I stayed at Channel 2 for 15 years doing a position that I really didn't want to do. Only believing that at some point I was going to be given the opportunity that I so justly deserved. And I say that not in all to sound cocky. It was because I knew that I had worked hard. I knew that I gave it my all and then some. Like, I don't bring 100% to the table. I bring probably 200%. Yeah. I am a hard charger. And it is, well, I know I'm talented. I know I'm a hard worker. I know I'm kind to everyone. Why would you not? Wow. And I was told by a lot of people that I worked with at the time that that person who had the control over me was jealous. But why? And still will never make sense, but I don't need the answer. I don't have time to sit down. I just am going. If that person ever wanted to say, well, this is why, just be honest enough. Yeah. But why? Why would you be jealous of your employee that literally would say that she would do anything? Yeah. And then when you're out in public, act like you're my best friend. Yeah. Let's just be real. Yeah. Right? So when I had enough and I had an army around me at the station say, go get what you deserve. Oof. And I wasn't leaving because I felt like I was going to lose my friends. But a true friend will be there for you no matter the distance, no matter the circumstance. Yeah. And so it became Channel 5 talking to me for about a month and a half or so. And finally me saying, okay, we're going to do this. And one of my former coworkers said she believed it was one of the most savage moves in TV because it is very rare that you can leave one station and start at the next week because of non-competes. Yeah. The reason it was able to happen, because a lot of people want this story, the reason it was able to happen was that I was an at-will employee, which means that she so quickly could have just thrown me to the side, or I could have left right at any point, and that's what happened. Oh. I chose to leave, and I had no non-compete. Oh. I'm sure after me, they probably buttoned that up.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Right?
I'm sure.
So I left on a Thursday and started at the next station on a Monday. I showed up on air 2 weeks later, and a lot of people that live here in St. Louis saw the billboards of me like this in the very news director pose, right, or anchor pose that said, I made the move, so should you. It was wonderful. It was a little bit of an in your face, but it was also hopefully a life lesson of go get what you deserve.
Man.
Yes. And so 15 years at Fox and then 3 years. And understand, I would have stayed at NBC longer if other things that had happened there behind the scenes weren't happening. There was a lot of toxicity, and there is, by the way, unfortunately, in that business. A lot of negativity. Why? Because you're covering, unfortunately, a lot of horrific stories. Yeah. But a network should do this. And if I had more time on my hands, I would say, let me run a network and let's do this. Let's start the news by saying, we know you know what's coming, but we're not going to start your day that way. Ooh. We're going to start with this and give them a positive story straight out of the gate. Give them weather, because everybody wants weather. Right. Give them traffic if they need traffic. Give them the happy story. Give them the positive story. Give them the hopeful story. Give them the story that's going to make them think, inspire them, and then take a break, go to commercial, come back, and then tell me about the shootings and this and that. And if I don't want to hear it, then I'll turn it off. But at least you've given me some kind of hope that there's good out there. Yes. Those stories were buried until later in the half hour or in the hour. And so it was few and far between that we were able to do those things. Yeah. And now, now it's really a shell of itself. Yeah. I did my internship at that NBC affiliate, felt so blessed to be able to work there. And so when I had the job there, the unfortunate side is I started working there in January of 2020. What happened in March of 2020? Oh. The pandemic. Yeah. We all went home. And socialization was gone. Only a few people left in the building. I was at home anchoring for about 3 or 4 months, came back. And when we came back, it just was a different we just talked about energy and picking up on things. There was a different feel.
Yeah.
And then there was backstabbing, and there's all that stuff that happens in the business. And I had had enough, and I was like, it's not going to happen anymore.
Yep.
So the news director did offer me a 3-year, and I always want to be clear on this. She offered me a 3-year extension, but it was a gut punch of what that 1%. That's what I was offered. And I'm transparent. Whether they want me to say it or not, it was a 1% increase. And I went, what? And immediately, Ashley, what came to mind was the next part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Know your value, Monica. You preach it. And now it's all over, well, it's all over everything. It's all over.
You have a clothing line that's Know Your Value, right?
Know your value. Yes. We whether it's workout clothes or t-shirts or it's my journals. I'm very big into journaling on a coffee mug. It is know your value, know your value, know your intrinsic value. And I did. And it was like resonating with me. I countered much higher. It wasn't just me pulling it out of anywhere. I had talked to 2 different agents. By the way, my entire career, I never had an agent. I chose that.
Wow.
It was my choice. Do I think I could have made more, been New York? But yes, but when my dad died, I chose to never leave my mom's side. And if anything were ever to happen to her, Jim thinks he's going to take me to the South, which may be what happened. He's the only man that I would move for. But as long as my mom is alive, I'm not going anywhere, because I was an hour away when my dad was sick and couldn't get there on his deathbed. I can't imagine being states away.
Yeah.
Right? So I talked to 2 agents because I was thinking, well, maybe I'll end up moving. Maybe I'll do this finally. And they both told me what I was supposed to be paid. It was drastically different from what I was being offered. So I came back with that. And my boss at the time looked at it like, whoa, we're way far apart. And I said, we are, but that's way too low.
Yeah.
And when someone agrees with you and they shake their head and then they catch themselves of, oh, because she went like this and then stopped. And I was like, that's too low. But she also kind of had set me up of it by saying, I love the art of negotiating. I'm thinking, why? Why do this whole race? Like literally just give me what I deserve. Yeah. And guess what? I would have stayed. But when they came back and saw what I was offering, what my negotiation was, it then was like, okay, now the ball's in our court. Great. Okay, so now I'm waiting a couple days. I'm back from the field shooting, editing, because at this stage we do it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, host, do it all. I'm editing, and I get this ping email, and I'm like, oh, okay, now she wants to set the next meeting. Nope, Ashley, in that email was, we're going to end our negotiating. In an email, which I thought was extremely classless. And all of a sudden I smiled, because this was another awakening for me. If you don't know the value that I'm bringing, I know my value. Mm-hmm. And I also know this field. And I'm going to do it on my own. Oof. Right? And so I walked out into the garage, said goodbye to a couple of people. It wasn't my final day. So I will say this, God did guide me and have so much blessings of, you're going to have another month and a half. And in that month and a half, you better go, girl. You better go. And so when Monday came around, she apologized and said, I shouldn't have. I said, sent me an email. Yeah, I saw that as being very classless. And she's like, yep, I shouldn't have. I should have just said, hey, can you come back in the office? She's like, I'm sure that was either she said it was like a gut punch or something on those lines. And I said, the next words were so powerful. I said, oh God, no, you just gave me the greatest gift of my life. And she goes, oh, I did not expect that. But you know what? I agree with you. And I said, yeah, like this is a blessing. And she's like, you're going to go change the world. You're so talented. And at the time I sit there and go, don't patronize me. Like if you thought I was, you would keep me.
Yeah.
But in the way it was, maybe she saw what the news business was becoming.
Yeah.
I think they believed that I was going to probably not do broadcasting anymore, and I was going to do all the other things of my brand, even though I didn't know I had a brand at the time.
Yeah.
And so that's where my friends and family, we all gathered around, and I thought, I have a month and a half that if I don't have something in place, when you're in the industry that we were in, you become no longer relevant. Mm-hmm. If you don't have something else for them to go to, right? So very quickly came up with the name. Very quickly came up with, oh my gosh, 10 years ago, you were told you were a brand. You're a brand. Go launch your brand. And so brought up my emceeing and auctioneering and my life coaching and my personal training a little bit more, did my design and wardrobe consulting a little bit more. But then I had a friend that said, people come to your page every day for inspiration and motivation. You've got to start a show. And I'm like, on what? And he's like, on everything they come to you for. So we just started in the house in March of 23. And then I started seeing my audience double and triple. And I'm like, I'm not in TV anymore. How am I getting a bigger audience? Because this is what the world wants.
Yep.
They're not following news people because guess what? You're posting all the stories of negativity so it's a wake-up call. So people that are still in it, at some point you're going to realize it's so much better over here. But thank them for the platform that they gave you, but run with it and do good with it.
Mm-hmm.
I got into the business because I knew that the power of this and the power of that camera
Amen.
can do good things.
Amen.
But you got to do good things with it.
That's, oh gosh, that's so good. I feel like that's every one of our, like, the purpose of your life is to take the things you've been through, the hardest things you've been through, learn from them, overcome them,
Right.
and then build, your legacy by putting out all the good things in the world that kept you going,
Right. Right.
Oh, that's so good. I have so many questions here. I'm gonna pass them because we went a different direction and I'm loving this so much. But there's two things I want to ask you before we wrap this up. And one is you talk a lot about your awakening. What was the thing that helped you rebuild? Whether it was multiple times or if there's one in particular time, how did you rebuild and just go? Like,
from a personal standpoint, it was, and again, the more present you are, the more I think you can see this clearer. When I was in radio as a morning show host, and then when I got into TV, it was dating different people. And when I was introduced at a party or to friends as, this is Monica from WIL, this is Monica from Fox, it was, no, that's an extension of my life.
Yeah.
It does not define me.
yeah.
And so there was a guy that I was dating, and I thought it was going really great. And then we go to a party and it was, hey, this is Monica from wherever I was at the time. And I sat there and went, wow, interesting. Okay. So we got in the car and he's like, oh, it was such a good night. I go, it was. It's such a shame that this is our last date. And he is like, what? And I said, yeah. And he's like, I thought things were going well. I said, I did too, until you introduced me. He's like, oh, no, I was proud. And I go, then you introduced me as Monica and let me say what I do. And by the way, I don't honestly care what anyone does for a living. What I care is, who are you as a human being? Mm-hmm. So I have friends that used to say, oh, I'm dating this new guy. He's a lawyer. He's a doctor, whatever. And I was like, it's so superficial.
Yes.
Why don't you let me meet him? And if it ever comes up in conversation, what he does for a living or what I do, let us tell a part of our story, because it is only a part. And at any point that can be taken away from you. But who are you as a human being?
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that person that made me feel welcome and warm and kind. And oh my gosh, you're kind to this person, or you're kind to that person. Yeah. So the awakening personally for me was that I will never date someone or marry someone that wanted to know who I could introduce them to, or what party I could get them into, or what tickets could I get them, or what concert could I. You don't love me for who I am.
Yep.
It's for what I do.
Yeah.
And the good thing is, when I met Jim, he couldn't care less about any of that, right? So that's when you know you have your person.
Yeah.
From a professional standpoint, it is, your work ethic. That hopefully that you come in early, you might stay late, you're a hard worker. Yeah, if you bust your butt like that, you do deserve to climb that ladder. Mm-hmm. But again, don't ever forget the people that helped you climb the ladder, and don't squash the rest of them. Mm-hmm. Help them along with you. And ideally, for me, it was always, if somebody's going to give me a chance, I want to give a chance. So when I have interns, boy, do they learn a lot, because I want them to. Mm-hmm. I want the next person that hires them to go, how in the world do you know all this? Well, Monica gave me all these opportunities. I mean, it's literally like they're working in the field right away. Yeah. So I just want to pay it forward. But it really goes back to my health, that 19-year-old awakening. And then it's any bad relationship, learn from it. Otherwise, you miss the point.
Yep.
Right? So whether it's good or bad, we're always learning. You always have an education piece. And I know it's hard to say thanks for the abuse, or thanks for the domestic violence, or thanks for anything. But it is at that point, thank you, because I'll never let this happen again.
That's so true.
Hopefully, you never let it happen again.
That's so true.
Yes.
The worst things you experience are the things that teach you what you don't ever want.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
And the whole thing of, shame. If they did it, shame on them. Then if it happens again, shame on me, shame on me, shame on me. We have to release shame. Yes. I read devotionals at the end of every one of my shows. It's 100 Days to Freedom books, from fear and anxiety, depression, shame, anger, overeating. They're powerful books from Stephen Arterburn, beautiful books. And it is, we are trying to break you from that. That's so when we say shame on, start to kind of change those words. Not shame on me or shame on them. Let's learn. Mm-hmm. It happened. What can we learn from it?
That's so good. That was probably the most significant part of my own inner healing, was learning to have grace for myself, for the things that I didn't know.
Right.
And the things that I endured, and for the things that I allowed, and going, it's okay.
It's okay. And if you were hurt and victimized, can we pray for that person? Can we hope? There's some really bad people in this world. And all I can do is hope that at some point in life, they turn around. I don't know why you prey on women or men or children or animals, whatever it may be. It will never make sense to me.
Right.
But the more we put good out in the world, the more I truly believe that we will have less and less of that.
I agree.
Because then it'll be like, I don't have a place anymore. Right.
Yep.
So come on over here and we'll help you.
Yep.
But the greatest Christian thing that we can do is reach out a hand and go, are you ready to change?
Yeah.
It's hard to think of the abuser or to think of anybody that did to turn and say, but it's what Jesus did. Or it's what God did. Or it's whatever your belief is. He wouldn't have turned away.
Yep.
I know it's hard. We've all been through hard times and really, really difficult times. I know your story. You don't know part of a story that happened to me when I was younger, but that person, if they were here today, I would say, I know that you didn't mean to do this, but do you want to heal? It's hard to meet with your abuser to say, I know you don't want to do this. There's no way that anybody grew up and said,
Right. And just
I
woke
want
up one day and said, I want to hurt everyone.
So what happened to them?
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yes.
I always say I don't always say, but one of the things that I fundamentally believe is that the only way for, domestic violence and sexual assault and these things to change is that we have to heal the abuser too. And nobody likes to hear that. I've gotten a lot of, not a lot of negative feedback on that, but
they'll keep doing it if they don't heal.
If they don't heal, nothing changes.
Correct. And at the time, I don't believe they know why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Were they a victim? Because we know it's a cyclical thing, unfortunately. Right. You live in an addiction family, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it may be. It is, unfortunately, statistically likely that someone's going to repeat the pattern. Why? Because it's so what they knew. Yeah. Even though they swear, I don't want to do this, but it's so familiar.
For them.
Correct. Yeah. This is the life I knew. And then they need help. And then they have to find their voice. Yeah. And then they have to break that. Yeah. But I mean, yes, you might get negative feedback. I might from this comment, but it really is, they need help.
They do.
They've got to find their way to help. And somehow if we keep not like forcing it, but I'm here in case you ever want to talk about this, or I'm here to help you go to counseling because that's where you belong. And then that wounded soul will come out hopefully healed and not repeat. And if they repeat again, they got to go back in and get healed again.
Right. And that's their choice and their path, you know?
Yes.
Okay. So to wrap things up, but what legacy do you want to leave as Monica Adams at the end of your life when you've taken a look at everything you've done? What is the legacy you want to be known for?
I want, and normally I would have said woman, but I want women and men both to understand, and earlier in life to understand, that if you grow every day, absorb, be a sponge of life, and every day level up, better yourself, become kinder, become more intelligent because you can, work harder, be a better human being, be a better wife, mother, whatever it may be, that when you leave this earth, everyone continues to talk about what you did for them. Yeah. So for me, I do truly want people to celebrate that I made you feel better. That when I walked in the room, she smiled at me. She was kind to me. She gave me a hug. She saw me. She made me feel like I was the most important person in the room because it's how I was taught. But I also you can be taught that and you can choose a different path, right? These are the people we talked about. Like, I don't know, they may have been raised well and then who knows what turned them. For me, I was, and I will always thank my mom and dad for that. I was blessed with great parenting. Don't get me wrong, we had our hard times.
Right.
But I learned from that. But I also learned that I don't want this to repeat in my own relationship. I want it to go this way. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that when I have a relationship with you, whether it is that you sit in my chair and you're my guest, and if we never see each other again, I hope that you felt the warmthness. I hope that you felt the kindness, that I just want this world to be a better place. And that if my footprint can do that, even if it's just touching one person's life, it is a huge ripple effect that can happen by the next person, the next person, the next person showing kindness. So that's all I want, is that you truly understand that you can be anything, but you can't be anything before you're kind.
Amen. Whew, that's so good. I have one more, just one more. I wasn't going to just one more really quick. This is that you can make this as long or as short as you want. If you could go back to little Monica before all of the the fame and the achievements and all of the things that you've accomplished, what would you say to her, knowing what you know now?
So I would say, don't listen to the bullies, because I was. don't listen to the abuser because you don't know that part of my story, but I'll tell you it. It was him being wrong. You were the victim. And it took a long time to forgive, but I had to. If I never forgave, and I know a lot of people say I can't forgive, you'll never forget, learn from it. I had to forgive or I would never truly heal.
Yeah.
When I did, and maybe I would have done it earlier, but actually probably what the biggest was is find your voice.
Yeah.
That's the greatest thing that I did for myself. Find your voice, but find it earlier. As a young girl, as a young boy, understand that the bully, they're bullying you, they're jealous of you, whatever, because they're not okay in their own life.
Yeah.
And all they're trying to do is block you from truly seeing them.
Yeah.
Right? So I was bullied, or I had girls that were jealous for whatever it may be, whether it was from, as an athlete or when I modeled or when I got into the business, whatever it was. So you want that? Well, go get it.
Yeah.
Go work as hard as I am. Right? This wasn't handed to me. I have busted my butt for everything I've ever done in life.
Right.
And everything that I have, I worked very, very hard for.
Mm-hmm.
And if I would have been blessed with children, I would have said, work hard, but be kind. Right? You've got to be a good human being. So it was always instilled in me. It still is to this day. I just would have told her to find her voice earlier.
Yeah. And believe it's worthy of being heard.
Yes. But that's the thing. You think about in medicine, they talk about how we can actually make ourselves sick because we suppress emotions.
Yes.
We push them down into here. It's not a good place to be. So you literally can make yourself sick. And then you think about whether it's holistic medicine or Eastern or Western, whatever it may be, there are warning signs.
Yep.
Listen to the warning signs earlier. Listen to the whispers and pay attention to the people who truly have your back, because they're trying to divert you from going day after day, relationship after relationship, bad job after bad job, waking up every morning and being miserable. They really do want the best for you, and they're trying to help you with that. Don't dismiss their help.
Yeah. Life lesson right there.
Yeah.
Well, Monica, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time today.
Absolutely.
You are so inspiring. And honestly, you truly are so authentic.
Thank you.
And it's interesting. And I love this. I love seeing beautiful, successful women who can be real and warm too.
We need more of it.
We do.
Yep.
We do. It's really powerful.
I
So
agree.
thank you very
No,
much.
thank you. Thank you.